Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of No Limits. My name is Scott Morgan, out the Motor City Mad Mouth. Pleased to be joined by Farr Jr. Mel, thanks a lot for coming on again.
Hey, no problem. My pleasure, Scott.
And of course, Jennifer Cobb, looking great as she always does. And glad to have you back on.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right, folks, let me just let everybody know that No Limits is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just participate in the chat rooms. One way to do it. And the other way is send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Go out and advertise cost efficiently. Call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website www.southfloridatribune.com, where you'll see this broadcast on later on, as well as Twitter, X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And I just want to mention my new book that'll probably be coming out in about 2 or 3 weeks. Working around the clock to get it done now. And it's actually a media-related book, and it's called Lessons from the Microphone. Lessons from the Microphone. Tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. And, I'm proud to mention that Farr Jr. and Jennifer are both in it. So there you go. I'll let everybody know when they earn their way in that book without a doubt. All right, topic of the night. Barry Melrose retires from Parkinson's disease. He had a very storied career in the broadcast booth. What he did as a player, coach, not so much, but for a lot of you hockey people that want to know, Barry Melrose, obviously, as I mentioned, worked with ESPN. He's 67 years of age. But I'll just go over some stats anyways for those individuals that want him. In 225 games coaching, he won 84 games, lost 108, tied 29, 4 overtime losses, and was a coach in the 1983 Stanley Cup Finals for the LA Kings when Waynegretzky was there. So he made 1 playoff appearance. If you want to know his playing numbers very quickly, I'll be more than happy to do that. In 300 games in the NHL, 10 goals, 23 assists, 33 points, 728 penalty minutes. So he liked to mix it up and protect his peeps. With that said, all right, he's the latest big name here. So, Mel, what are your thoughts about Barry Melrose retiring because of this disease?
Yeah, I think he's doing the right thing. He wants to take care of himself, spend time with his family, try to prolong the effects of this disease as long as possible. Obviously he's lived a full life, but you want to try to get everything out of it that you possibly can. And I think it's smart. Obviously, the job would be taxing on him. That's probably something else that would make it more difficult, and it might affect the disease. I'm not really sure about that. But right now, the most important thing for him is to focus on his health and to be able to spend quality time with his family while, he's still able to do so. I mean, it's unfortunate, obviously. I think a lot of people related to Barry. I don't remember him so much as a coach, a little bit, but not much. I remember when he was at ESPN and he went to coaching again. I think he coached 16 games and got fired or something like that. But
right,
obviously everybody I remember him for his his wittiness. He made listening to people talk about hockey. He made it interesting with his approach to it. Obviously, his goatee and then his his mullet. That's what he was famous for. His goatee, his mullet, and his wittiness. But it's sad, it's unfortunate, but I think he's definitely doing the right thing.
Okay, Jen.
Well, he was asked in this last interview, why he chose to retire. And a great quote that he said was, there's no, I think it was, there's no more dog in the fight. And it's interesting when he says that quote, because there actually is a dog in the fight. And right now it's not the fight of hockey. It's not evaluating players and the performance and athleticism. It's Parkinson's disease.
Right.
And that's the fight. And good for him for recognizing that, because now the platform that he used to stand on for hockey and evaluating athletes is now his platform is standing on Parkinson's disease, you know, a neurological disorder that he can really, really reach out to the masses. So I actually respect the guy, and, you know, he's going to allow himself to use that platform to reach so many people. And that's great. That's an amazing position to be in.
You know, when we talk about big name individuals being diagnosed for a disease, what's really unfortunate is we tend to realize that a lot of us around us have them, but when they get the attention, it becomes another story. One thing that stands out was when I heard that Magic Johnson had the HIV virus that leads to AIDS. That's when people started to pay attention to it. And of course, Jen, we know all too well, you know, Muhammad Ali, michaeljfox is another one. And that's when these diseases start to become more noticeable. So Jen, I'm going to swing it over to you. Why is it that in general, people just react to big names without just the ordinary individual? That boggles my mind.
Well, it's the platform they're standing on. And, you know, the Lord puts us in positions every day of our life. My platform was coming off the NFL field as an alumni, you know, Super Bowl cheerleader. I used that platform for the caregivers and opening up that Pandora box, I guess. And then you've got Barry opening up, you know, his platform for Parkinson's. And I don't know if you know this, but Gretzky's dad had Parkinson's.
Walter Gretzky had it?
Yeah, Walter Gretzky has Parkinson's. And, you know, of course, we all know Muhammad Ali and Michaeljfox. And I often people ask me a lot, like, Jen, did boxing cause Muhammad to get Parkinson's? It's like you don't catch a cold by getting, you know, in the boxing ring. You don't catch Parkinson's by being on the ice and playing hockey. Hockey doesn't cause Parkinson's. Boxing doesn't cause Parkinson's. Parkinson's is a neurological disorder. If you're diagnosed with it before the age of 40, it's hereditary. If you're diagnosed with it later on in life, it's environmental. So you're either predisposed to Parkinson's or you're not. You don't catch Parkinson's by being a boxer. I want people to be very, very clear, understanding that hockey doesn't cause Parkinson's. So anyone out there that's listening to this story needs to really, truly understand that just because somebody is a hockey player or a boxer or a runner or a football player or whatever, those sports don't cause people to get a neurological disorder.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, Jennifer, because a lot of people, I mean, that was the narrative when it first came out with Muhammad Ali and him having Parkinson's was the number of hits that he had taken to the head was the cause of it. But also with the NFL lawsuit, the concussion lawsuit, there's a portion in there that deals with Parkinson's, as far as, you know, the level of money that you're able to get paid out. You know, if you have Parkinson's, you get, you know, certain amount of money paid out to you. So they are trying to bring it or correlate it to trauma, head trauma.
And trauma is. Yes, and those players, Mel, those players are they either have it. It's kind of like if your family history is stronger to cancer, there could be a trauma or something very tragic in your life that could bring it to surface. So all of the hitting and the boxing, the football, playing football, all of that trauma could bring it to surface. But what I think it's really important is you can actually be tested to see if you have the gene. If you do have the gene and you know that, how great of information for you that you can do things differently. If Muhammad would have known that he had Parkinson's prior to getting in the boxing ring, I guarantee you the people around him, coaching, nutrition, training, protection, all of that, the way that he trains, the way he fights, there would have been a lot of different approaches than if he didn't know. And I think with our generation and technology, I think it's wonderful that we have that right now. A lot of people are like, oh, they have their opinions about AI, it's going to be a cheating for kids in school. No, it's not. I mean, look at years ago when we had to do math long division on paper. Oh, and then the calculator came out. Oh my gosh, everyone went crazy. Oh, now we're going to cheat. Like, no, we just evolve with the times, and so we have to embrace the technology. I think now with sports and Parkinson's or concussions or head trauma, we have the technology to better reinforce our training and our coaching. And I think we need to embrace that.
Good points all the way around. So let's talk about, Jennifer, you brought this up. Now I want to take it a step further, okay? We all know that obviously football / head trauma, boxing / head trauma go hand in hand and probably in an indirect sense lead to neurological disorder because the brain can only take so much. However, there's one sport that I definitely feel is being overlooked, and that's hockey. Remember, these kids start when they're 4 years old, right? In fact, Connorbedard, who obviously will be the next star in the NHL, started at 4, and a lot of these young kids. So I guess my question to you, Jen, okay, is this. Do you think that hockey is being overlooked in this entire equation?
Oh, absolutely. Just like we spoke last time about cheerleading. It's the #1 sport with concussions. I think as Barry comes to surface and Gretzky talks, like these hockey, like all of these sports legends and people that look up to them for their athleticism and a wonderful gift that the Lord has given them. How amazing that they are able to use that platform to talk about it, and also go back and look at how are these young players coached. It's a lot different than it was when Mel was on the field, and it's also a lot different when Barry was on the ice. It's the coaching's just evolved. It's different. The helmets are also created different. You're not allowed to hit head to head. It's isn't it right, Mel? Don't you hit with the shoulder now?
Yes.
And they're teaching these young kids from a young age the caution aspect in cheerleading and gymnastics when they're at practice. The coaches are a lot more cognizant to the surroundings of the environment that pattens these falls and how they're spotted when they're doing these difficult movements.
Right.
And so the same goes to the players on the field as well as on the ice. They're a lot more. We're having these conversations. That is a good thing. It gets people talking, and that's awesome. That's great, because what it's going to do is it's going to bring people together. especially the coaches when they're coaching and saying, okay, this is what we got. This is what we really need to evaluate. And I think putting all these heads together and saying, I think moving forward, when we do this drill, how about we do this, do it this way for precautionary purposes, and I'm not saying that it's going to be, taken from practice field onto game day. Game day, it's all, balls to the wall, head, let's freaking go, But what I'm saying is game day isn't what a lot of times causes the day to day. It's coaching and practice. You're practicing more than you are on game day, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a comment here from a guy named Corey Kraft, and he says years ago they changed hockey to no check until the kids are 14. So, all right,
No, what? I'm sorry, I missed you.
That's
no,
okay,
what?
Jen. Now I'll repeat it again, Jennifer. Okay.
Yeah.
Years ago they changed hockey to no check until the kids are 14. Well, all right. I mean, that probably, I believe, is a really good sign. But when you still get past 14 and you go into the juniors and college or whatever, but anyways, you can minimize your head, the trauma is one thing. But what are your thoughts, Jennifer, about this point that obviously there was no check until the kids are 14? At least you minimize it early, but ultimately end up getting it. Our series of doing Parkinson's is all based on head trauma anyways, in terms of a neurological disorder. But Corey brings up a really interesting point.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of testing now where the doctors, and Mel can probably contest to this too, that when the players are practicing, that there's trainers that are trained to evaluate on the sidelines if there is a concussion or if there's symptoms, because there's only so much that a trainer or a physician can evaluate on the sideline. So technology again has gotten better where they can evaluate to a completely different degree, whether you're a hockey player, football player, or a gymnast, whatever your sport is, contact. I've worked with concussion specialists that are developing amazing technology ways that they can evaluate concussion, because the number one thing you do not want to do, especially when you are an amazing, let's say, football player, and this guy has been working his tail off since pee-wee football, and now he's in high school, and you've got some trainer on the sideline that evaluates a player and all of a sudden labels them as concussed, and now he's got that label, and now that word spreads and scouts all know, oh, he's concussed, oh, he's done, and it's like, right. No, he's not concussed. In order to have a true concussion evaluation, you can't just do that on the field, on the sidelines. You got to take the athlete off the field and evaluate it correctly. And how dare any trainer or coach already label this football player, in this case, as a concussed athlete and completely destroy everything he's worked for up until that point. It's completely not fair. So, what I'm saying is, looking and checking these kids at 14, I believe it needs to be younger with any sport. And I think there should be concussion specialists and trainers that are trained in evaluating, and every team needs to have a concussion evaluation machine to actually look and have it the athlete tested preseason, in season, and postseason, and see where these brain waves and what they look like. Because there's no way to evaluate an athlete on the sidelines in 10 minutes by looking at a pen and going back and forth, looking at eyeball range, how they're viewing, and if they can walk a straight line, or if they have, their head hurts, or no, you can't. You have to evaluate the athlete pre, during and post season in order to get a true concussion diagnosis.
Okay. Well, you know what, Mel? How do you want to respond? I'm going to start going to some comments, but what's your response to that, Mel?
Well, when I played, you got a concussion, you go back in the game. I think I told you the story before. Coming out of high school, I always wore a bike helmet, and we got to UCLA, and they wore Rydell's. I guess there was some kind of lawsuit going on with the bike helmets at that particular time, and so we had to wear Rydell helmets. And every time I would hit, I'd have a headache. I kept Anderson in my pocket, in my socks, because every time I would hit, I get a headache. So I was just popping Anderson like they were Skittles.
Right.
And so a couple guys had bikes on the team. I'm like, what do I got to do to get a bike helmet? They said, well, you got to get a concussion. That's the only way you can get a bike helmet. You have to have be diagnosed with a concussion. We're playing the University of Miami in the Fiesta Bowl, and on the opening kickoff, I got concussed. And I went to the sidelines. I guess they said I guess I found my way to the sideline, and they said I was just kind of standing there looking around. And I remember doing the where are you thing. I remember myself saying,
right,
I don't know. And then all of a sudden it just came back. Game started like 15 minutes. I think it was about like 10 minutes left in the game, or 10 minutes left in the quarter. And I think I came back. And then I said, I can get a bike now, huh? And they said, yep, you're good to go now. And they put me back in the game and everything. And that was my freshman year. And then the next year I had a bike, and I never had a problem with concussions anymore. Wow. Never had a problem. So the equipment has a lot to do with it. But when I grew up, they taught you to hit with your helmet. They tell you to put your helmet right underneath the guy's chin.
Right. Yeah.
The helmet was really never designed to be used that way. If you go back into, when my dad started playing, they had leather helmets, or they had helmets, so they didn't have any face masks. The helmet was never really used. It was never designed to be used the way that it's used right now. But because helmets have gotten so much better, people started using the helmet and really started weaponizing the use of a helmet. So that's one of the problems, and that's why they're trying to take the head out of the game now, where guys aren't leading with their heads, because it's not only concussions that you're concerned about. Guys who are getting spinal cord injuries is you're concerned about.
That's a really great point, Mel.
Shazier, the linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he goes to make a tackle on the guy, has his head down, hits him in his back, and he became paralyzed. So the big thing with the head is not so much the concussions. You can kind of come back from those. It's those spinal cord injuries, and that's what you got to be really concerned about.
Right.
So let's go to the chat. I'm sorry, Jen.
I was just going to ask Mel, knowing that what you know now, going back to when you were on the field to now, and how technology has evolved so much, do you feel that if we had that back then, that it would have been different play for you?
As far as what?
As football and performance, and
if we had the technology that we have now, would have been different for me back then, as far as being thrown back in the game and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess because because somebody else is going to make that decision. You're not making that decision.
Right.
Somebody else makes that decision.
I'm so glad that you just said what you said, because it's so important.
A separate neurologist makes that decision now that doesn't have anything to do with either the team or the NFL.
Correct.
Or anything like that. Independent neurologist that makes that decision.
Because when the media is on the sideline, they hear the C word, they start to spread like, the game of telephone. Next thing you know, it Mel's on the front page of ESPN highlights, and you're already labeled concussed, and that's not even the case. So it angers me, as you can probably hear in the tone of my voice, that I want to rally around protecting these athletes, that they diagnosing someone on the sidelines as concussed, because there has been high school players that it has really affected their careers going into college, and also college going into the pros, because they have been labeled even before they've had a true diagnosis, if any. So yeah.
When you look at Tua and what he went through last year, I don't know if you're familiar with Tua Tagovailoa that plays with the Miami Dolphins, but he had some real bad incidents on the field where it didn't look very good for him. Where arm seized up and stuff like that. It wasn't a pretty sight. It wasn't pretty to look at. From just his head hitting the ground, not any forcible contact from another helmet or another person, just from being slung like a rag doll on the ground and his head bouncing off the ground. He had some very significant concussions last year that, for me, obviously when you're playing, you think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, you think you're invincible. But for me as a parent, and that's how I was looking at it from a parent point of view, I had to tell my son to seriously consider, hey, not doing this anymore, because I don't want to see you on the field like that again. That was terrifying for me to watch you laying out on the field and your body seizing up and stuff like that. That was tough to watch.
Yeah.
All right, let me go to the chat room really quickly. Okay, Butch Davis, there are commercial about protecting your melon. All right, there's one way of looking at it. Let's go back to Butch's other comment and get checked by a doctor. Let's also go to another one by Corey Kraft. Also, any head contact, even if accidental, is now 2 and 10 with a game suspension. If it's deemed intentional, unintentional head contact is an automatic 2 and 10. They are trying to minimize head contact, but obviously there's no perfect solution. So there you go. Everything that I've mentioned here is really pretty much related to what both of y'all are talking about. That, again, contact to the head, precautions, independent neurologists. And you're right, Mel. I saw that situation with Tua, and it looked bad. You're at a point now where, and the NFL is trying, obviously because of the lawsuits and all that, to be more conscious of head injuries. But regardless, the one thing we cannot overlook is, despite whatever precautionary measures that they are making, the players are bigger and stronger, and the impact is a lot more powerful.
It is, but I do want to reiterate the importance of pre-measuring and testing and post, even during. You don't have data speaks for itself. If you don't have the data, you can't give an actual evaluation or a diagnosis on a player if you have nothing to compare it to. So in order to get a true diagnosis of a concussed player, you have to do a pre-test. That means during preseason, every athlete needs to be tested and evaluated so they have something to go against, some data to compare and contrast. That's the only way, and it's the smartest way. I've worked with companies that actually have the technology now that they are creating, and it's amazing what it has done to these for these athletes in terms of protection.
Good points.
Yeah.
They really are. Thanks for bringing up. Anybody? No, you have anything, or anybody in the chat room want to chime in on that?
No, she makes a valid point. You have to have a baseline.
Right. Excuse me, I'm going to grab a battery real quick.
Yeah, the problem that we're having with the concussion lawsuit is you don't really have a baseline. They're trying to come up with a baseline for everybody, and everybody's baseline is different. And everybody's baseline is the same as far as the lawsuit is concerned. But they try to come up with a baseline, and obviously, it's come to find out that there was some bias on the baseline, to African American players, and that made it harder for them to qualify for the money. So they had to change that, and had to go back and do all the testing again and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've probably done that testing 4 or 5 times. They really don't want to pay out the money, but it's very difficult if you don't have a baseline of what the player how he came in, and then how he's leaving the game. So you're supposed to leave the game the same way you come in, but that's just about impossible to do.
Right. Good point.
Well, the thing that I really like about what you said, Jennifer, is they should have 3 different tests, beginning, middle, later. That to me is a very, very valid point. So we'll go back to Corey Kraft. We offer baseline testing for kids, and unfortunately, a lot of them don't take advantage of it. Jennifer is 100% correct. That technology is available. Good point.
Yeah. Well, every athlete needs to have it done to protect the athlete, because again, going back to that young man that's busting his butt for years in high school, college, and hopefully wants to get drafted. And that's one time he gets knocked on his noggin, and the C word goes and starts to spread because
Right.
some trainer does an eyeball roll test and all of a sudden labels him as concussed, and now he's labeled.
Right.
It's just, it angers me. Every athlete needs to be protected.
Well, the key word that you mentioned there, Jennifer, is labeled. And I want to make sure that people know when you're labeled something, you're labeled, and it's hard to get rid of that.
Yeah, that's what they talk. I mean, he's, you look at all the numbers and the stats on this player, and he's amazing, whether it's hockey, whether it's football. And then you've got somebody that says, oh, this young man is, hit himself too hard, and now we're going to take him off. He's benched for the next 7 to 8, 10 days because he's concussed. Now it's like, oh, I don't want to be the player in the game the next time he's on the field and possibly hit him again. Like, there's tippy-toeing around there. So it's just overall, when you look at the whole evaluation process, it doesn't work. Well, unless you have, like Mel said, unless you have concrete data, because data speaks for itself. You have pre-test, during, and post, and you have something to compare it to other than, a pen.
Right. Well, concrete data, and the other two words obviously associated with head injury are concussion protocol.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, whether it's, I don't care what sport you're talking about, whether it's hockey, I'll tell you another guy, and I'm sure maybe we'll address it later down the road. But one guy that I know got wrecked in the National Hockey League was Eric Lindros, who was really concussed his way out of the game. And he's one of the higher profile names in hockey. One of these days we'll talk about it. I just wanted to bring it to the forefront there. But Eric Lindros, to me, is one of those guys that, destined for superstar status, had a pretty good career. But he's one of those what would have been stories, Jennifer. And the reason why I'm bringing Lindros is, remember, we started this show with Barry Melrose, okay? So when we try to intertwine the entire show together, where we start with hockey and we end it, to me, either way, it all comes down to brain trauma. And I know that both of y'all mentioned it earlier. We can only hope now that Barry Melrose will be able to use this platform to be able to do what Michaeljfox, Muhammad Ali, and everybody associated with this disease will do, and bring awareness to it.
And there's another father, Tim Tebow. His father has Parkinson's.
Oh, no
Many
kidding.
people don't know that. Yeah.
Well, now they do.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, I've never heard him speak about it. But hopefully they'll be able to come up with a cure, not just bring awareness to it. I mean, you look at what they've done with HIV
Yes.
since the late 1980s, early 1990s. You look at where, now they have, medicines out there that can make it undetectable. I mean, when Magic Johnson was diagnosed with, I mean, it was like a funeral, man. We thought, man, this guy, 2 3 years, he's going to be out of here, because some of the other people that we knew or that we heard of or that were famous, Rock Hudson and so forth, and some of other people that we heard of that dealt with the disease and they didn't make it. Back then that was a death sentence. So obviously it's and I know they're making advances in Parkinson and research and stuff like that. But the thing is that they need to spend more money on research so we can come up with some kind of cure for it, or either prolong it or lessen the effects of it, something so that people can have longer and more fruitful and meaningful lives.
And to piggyback off of that, Mel, Dr. Jerry Medoff, who actually is a neurological guru specialist, he's very well known all over the world. Dr. Jerry Medoff became world famous when he invented the 21 pill cocktail for HIV. He's the reason why we can take one pill now today and live a normal life. Dr. Jerry Medoff has Parkinson's. So what he created for the AIDS epidemic years ago, He's now fighting his life. Unfortunately, recently lost his life to Parkinson's. But if you Google Dr. Jerry Medoff, you can learn all about what he did to the AIDS community, how they basically saved their life. Now, if you get AIDS, you take a pill, one pill, not 21 pill cocktail anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's amazing how wonderful technology can be to our advantage, and how it can help not just people with AIDS diagnosis, but also brain trauma, Parkinson's, neurological disorders, whether it's MS, ALS, Lewy bodies, dementia, Alzheimer's, concussions, brain cancer, Parkinson's.
Yeah, there you have it. Barry Melrose. Well, all I can tell you is I wish you nothing but the best of health, and I hope that you can do what the other individuals have done and raise the level of interest to go ahead and bring awareness to what we need to do to try to find some answers with Parkinson's. But whether people have had dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, it doesn't matter. Like everybody talks about, it's a brain neurological problem, and we just keep looking for answers. And yet with this advanced technology being what it is, I'm hoping that we can advance this thing along. So with that said, I just want everybody to know again that No Limits is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. South Florida Tribune, we're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes taking care of business on the website, and I am releasing a new book in a few weeks called It's a Media Book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. To give you the snapshot version, you can learn from everybody. And every time we do a broadcast here, our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain. And there's certain things, and one of the things I really like to do is when I come up with unique niche shows that bring awareness to something. These are very gratifying because we have the platform, as John and Mel have talked about, and it's just us trying to find a way to utilize it by maxing it as well. And also, if you Google our shows, you can find them that way as well. But no, Jennifer, I mean, I truly admire everything about you and what you stand for, being a former St. Louis Rams cheerleader. I know you'll never get me to say LA Rams because I'm too cheap to ever buy you anything for dinner by using something I know better. Now St. Louis Rams, having fun with it, as you know, with all the time we've done this stuff together anyways. But Jen, what I want you to do now is I want you to put your information out there for our audience so they know more about your foundation.
Oh, yes, www.teamgatewaytoacure.org. And Team Gateway, we were founded about 5 years ago, and raising money for the Fox Foundation for a cure, as Mel spoke of earlier. Until we have a cure, which we desperately need, there's a caregiver behind their loved one. And so Team Gateway to a Cure, we focus on educating the caregivers in the home. And so we're a resource foundation. You can go to our website, teamgatewaytoacure.org, and you can look through our website and get lots of information, lots of resources to help educate the caregiver that's in the home that is caring for their loved one. And it's not necessarily a caregiver specifically for a neurological disorder. Caregivers come in many different packages. You can be a single mom caring for, your children may have, things that they're battling. You could be an adult child like myself caring for your parent. You can be a sibling caring for a younger and older sibling or a family member. You can be a wife caring for your husband. So, I mean, you can fill in the blank however you want. A caregiver is somebody that's giving care to their loved one. And oftentimes they go oftentimes they go unnoticed, and they have difficulty emotionally, like depression, anxiety. Sometimes it's financial hardships. And so at the end of the day, where do they go for their support? Insurance companies recognize caregivers now as the second patient. And so they want them to have the resources available to them, especially if your loved one, you want your loved one to stay in the home and not go to a nursing home facility. You have the availability to reach out to resources to help, such as hospice. You do not have to be on your, last days of your life to reach out to hospice. My father was on hospice for 4 years.
Really?
There's different levels of hospice, and you can graduate from different levels, which is wonderful. But of course, it's all paid for through the government, and there's many different hospice programs in each one of your own home towns that you live in. It's just about educating yourself and understanding how to go about getting those resources in your home. And Team Gateway to a Cure has a wonderful way of unraveling all of that information to make it very easy for the caregivers.
There you have it. We also have your information on South Florida Tribune as well. We want to make sure that your information is out there as well. So if you can't
Thank
find it,
you.
Jennifer, you're very, very welcome. It's just one of those things where what I try to do on this show is I treat it very fragile, because obviously Mel's my top analyst anyways, and we're hoping to get Coach John Montemago, and I do a lot of advanced networking in the chamber. So a lot of the things that Jennifer sends that I document, write down, I'm looking for the caregivers and other people, the doctors, that will ultimately come on this show when the schedules work on. So this is a show here where when you're dealing with a very, very demanding disease, and I say demanding because it's demanding in so many different ways on so many different people, I want to handle it with as much care as I can. So Mel, why don't you put your name out there? Is there anything else you want to add for that? No, just to let everybody know at the top of the hour, the Sports Exchange will be following here with No Limits. And we have one more thing in the chat room, Mel, and that's this. What about the NFL 99 plan? Does anybody know about that?
Yeah, that's my cousin.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's my cousin. So yeah, NFL 99 plan. Yeah, that helps NFL players who dealing with dementia and things of things of that nature. Where they'll provide assistance for vested NFL players and take in the caregiver. But yeah, that's my first cousin there. I don't know what she's doing.
So
okay.
Mel, it's a program the NFL puts. It helps the players, the existing or alumni, or
the alumni, and I think it's I'm going to say I think it's the 88 plan. I think John Mackey's number was 88. I can't remember, but there's a plan though that helps players with it provides funds for them for in-home care and things of that nature when they get to the point where where they're suffering from different things like dementia and things of that nature. Where they will assist them and give them assistance, and also their caregiver give them assistance as well.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
It's been a great program for a lot of different players. Some guys have strokes. Players have had strokes, and helping with that as well. So it's been a great. It's a part of the NFL trust. So it's been a great thing for the players, and it's money that's been funded and it's set aside for the players.
Yeah, what a wonderful program that the NFL has provided to the alumni. They aren't current on the field anymore, and they step off and lead their lives and move on. But there's some things that kind of follow with them. I actually had the honor of, actually they had the joy of watching Kelsey, the documentary. I don't know. Have you seen it, Mel?
Mm-mm.
And he
No,
speaks, he speaks in volumes about, he was on the field with Philadelphia Eagles and he played for 14, I believe, seasons.
He's still playing.
Yeah, but in the documentary, he's going into his 14th season. And he gets very, very emotional talking about what he's going to be, who he's going to be, and how he's going to be when he decides to retire and be a father and a husband at home. He's basically being so transparent that he's frightened of the person, like what is, who, how, all of it.
Yeah, who is he? Like who is he away from the game? How is he going to be away from the game?
And also the trauma that was caused to his head all of these years. He's, like popping aspirin like Skittles because he's got ankle pains and hip pains, shoulder pain, and his body just doesn't recover like he did 14, 15 years back. And, what is his identity? And I can understand that because my mother lost her husband, my father. What's her identity now? She gave 23 years of devoting on the field care to this man. He's passed away, and, she's trying to figure out what her identity is. And these players come off the field, what is their identity? Who are they? And it's really important that they have good people around them to help them create or, evolve being off the field. Mel, you can contest to this. You've gone through it.
Yeah, I mean, most players are going to have to get a JOB when they get done. Most of them. Some of them are not going to have to, but most are going to have to transition into something else once they get done playing the game of football.
Yeah, let's go back to the chat room. A couple things I just want to put on screen, Jen, okay? The 88 plan Dewana was talking about, regardless of that, we're talking about paying for the caregivers. And I know, Jennifer, that's the one thing we talk about every single show are the caregivers, that they don't get enough recognition for what they have to do. So whether it's the 88, 99 plan, the whole idea is these people have to be taken care of, regardless of what plan it is. So
yeah, I mean, after Mike Webster, they didn't want to have any more situations like that. You remember the situation with Mike Webster and how that all went down. That wasn't a good look for the NFL. I mean, that was not a very good look. I mean, this guy gave everything to the game, and then he was the one that was first diagnosed with CTE. That they figured he had CTE, and they couldn't have that. So they've come up with some things. They've gotten some programs. Obviously, a lot of stuff has been collectively bargained as well. And so they come up with some things that that help former players.
Mel, I was going to ask you, Mel, when did they initiate that plan? Is it just recently? Yeah,
it's been around for a little bit. The 88 plan. Okay. I'm not exactly sure when they initiated it, but it's been around for a little bit.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah, Jen, one of the things that we're going to do in the future, is I do want to bring awareness to CTE, even though a lot of times we often refer to Parkinson's disease. I think it's something that people need to know a little bit more about, even though I know our focus is on Parkinson's. We're still talking about trauma to the head. But, we'll be a while when we do it, but it's something down the road that you might want to think about as well. Because I think what you do is so admirable when you talk about head trauma and how it's interrelated to so many different aspects of things. So, but any other closing thoughts, Mel? I think we've done a pretty good job. Jennifer, unless there's something that we've missed that you want to add, go ahead.
No, I think we've covered the topic pretty well. I mean, unless there's questions that the viewers, listeners would like to.
Just got to get more funding. There's got to be more funding, and I hope, like you said, with a lot of these prominent people. Like I said, I didn't know about Tim Tebow's dad, nor did I know about Waynegretzky's dad. But there needs to be a lot more money devoted to this disease so that we can find a cure for it.
Yeah, you know what, Jennifer? I didn't know about Tim Tebow's dad either. So thanks for Jennifer for bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
more and more as time goes on and we do more of these shows here, you'll probably bring up more and more individuals that
So
we don't know about.
yeah, so Tim Tebow actually has an appearance in the movie, the documentary movie that I'm working on with Tom House, House of Arms. Tom House, um, Mel, I'm sure he knows, is very well known in the quarterback and the Major League Baseball pitching arena. He works with all of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, not all, but most of them. Tom Brady is Brady today because of Tom House. He's basically he's a what do you call
A guru?
emotion. He's a guru when it comes to the biomechanics of the arm.
Right.
He looks at the science of the movement of the arm, whether it's quarterback throwing or pitching for baseball. Tom, what he has done for so many amazing Hall of Famer athletes, current and alumni, also in baseball, he's now using those same strategies and training programs to battle his life, which is Parkinson's, the fight for Parkinson's. And so the movie, the documentary House of Arms, we're almost finished filming. We have Tom Brady that's going to be filming one more scene in a couple of weeks in LA that I'm going to be involved with him looking at the caregiver part of it, but Tom's doing something else with Tom House. But what it does is the cameras kind of follow Tom House around from morning till night, how he travels the world and coaches all these up and coming athletes, whether it's pitching or quarterback playing, and looks at how he manages his Parkinson's on a day-to-day basis. But then also in the privacy of his home, as his wife, Marie House, and I speak a lot in the movie about what it is like on a daily basis caring, what, you know, a caregiver goes through at home, and how it is, you know, it's a lot of work caring for your loved one, because it's not just physically, but it's emotionally, because you look at them as they degenerate through the disease process, and it just breaks your heart. You know, you want them back to where they were 10 years or 5 years or 2 years ago. And when you see them degenerate, you see how they fight it every single day, and there's nothing they can do other than the treatments. And so what Tom does is he evaluates and tries all of these different treatments that are out from all different parts of the world. It's really awesome. And it comes together in this documentary movie, House of Arms. So I'm really proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to be in it. But most importantly, I'm proud to what it's going to do for so many others out there that are battling any kind of disorder or disease.
Well, you know what, Jennifer? With every show we're going to do, you get well, I'll have you promote House of Arms every time. So those of it that missed what you had to say tonight, this will just be one thing that will obviously make sure you can repeat all the time if you want to.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And it, you know, you both have been a beacon of light in my life journey. I've just met Mel, and I'm, you know, honored to be on the same show with him and to hear him speak to what, you know, he stands for and what he's gone through.
Yeah.
And then my words hopefully will inspire others, and be through your media. Thank you, Scott. You know, we're able to reach the masses. So the Lord has put me in this spot for a reason, and I'm very blessed to be here.
Well, Jennifer, I still look forward to the day that we can meet in person when the time comes. So I'm sure when it's meant to happen, we get together in person. We might even do some live shots together instead of via this way. But right now, this works for the moment. But no, I you know what, Jennifer, you know, I don't bring on anybody unless I feel there's a sense of purpose. And what you're doing, Jennifer, is a sense of purpose. And I like everything you're doing. And we're going to continue to promote it as hard as we can. as often as we can. So, what else can I say? To be
Yeah.
teamed up. And Mel, you seem to be fitting in nicely with her and I. So at least, all three of us can work on this to do what we got to do, as well as some of the other people that we might do as well. So, but meanwhile, it's been a rewarding show. So, Mel, you want to let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Right there at Mel Farr Jr. on Twitter or X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Follow what we have going on for the kids here in Georgia and also for Michigan at melfarr.org.
All right. Well, that does it for this edition of No Limits. So, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr., who is obviously Jennifer knows, my co-host on Inside the Pigskin, and of course Jennifer. Well, she's No Limits. She's it. And even if we had other No Limits shows, there's nothing that, to me, that is more gratifying than to do this one with you, Jen, because I know where you're at. You got a great head and you have an incredible heart, and I just enjoy everything you're doing. Just all I can tell you, Jen, is just keep up the good work, and we'll work diligently to make sure we get the word out there as hard as we can. Okay, Jen?
Absolutely.
So we want to thank everybody for their participation in the chat room as well. So once again, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr. and Jennifer Lee Cobb, I don't know, Jennifer Cobb is easy, Jennifer Lee Cobb, however, I'll just say Jennifer. Okay, fair enough. That'll do it for tonight's broadcast. Immediately following us, we have the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you on the next edition of No Limits with myself and Jennifer. And Mel, you always have an open invite to come on this show anytime you want, Mel. So that does it for us. We'll catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.